Prices in the Peel region have dropped 600,000 since February this year. Is it a good time to buy or should we wait? I haven't done one of these in a while, so today I'm going to dive deep into the market data to show you the current situation and what your approach should be moving forward. Alright, so before I continue, I have a very serious question for you. Who wears it better, me or Milo? I want your comments below. Thank you. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Sid Chandra and I run a real estate team here in the Greater Toronto area. If you'd like to book a buyer consultation, seller consultation, or to simply chat about real estate, feel free to click on the link below and book a call with me directly. Before I cover the current situation, I want to share the previous market data. I believe the previous real estate numbers paint a very good picture on how our current market will react to interest rate hikes, high real estate prices, so on and so forth. Just like this market, we saw a similar market crash back in 1989. The inflation had reached an all-time high and interest rates were sitting at 13%. Prices dropped nearly 34% from 1989 to 91. Since then, they kept declining all the way up to 96. It was a very tough time in the Canadian history, and many people did have to walk away from their homes as well. Notice something interesting happened in this chart though. From 89 to 2000, the sales were hovering around the 40 to 60,000 range. Then from 2000 onwards, the sales shot up. It's because the government implemented more homeownership grants and encouraged home buyers and lowered the interest rates, similar to what happened previously in the last few years. This goes to show you that the market is psychological. If the news says the interest rates are going up, sales drop and prices decline. If the news says the interest rates are going down, prices start to hike up, and so does buying power. The truth is, prices will always fluctuate. As long as you don't over leverage yourself and take on more debt than you can handle, you will always come out winning. Let me give you an example. In Jan 2022, I purchased a property for $490K with 20% down at 2.7% interest rate on a variable mortgage. The property needed a complete gut job. I spent around $80K, including 4 months of carrying costs, to give it a complete facelift. I recently got it appraised for $760,000. At 80% loan to value, I'll be getting $600,000 of a mortgage on this property. Guess what that means? I have now access to $200,000 of my own funds and some profits and own this property completely free and clear. Many people will think that's foolish because now I'm paying a higher interest rate and have a higher debt on this property. However, my taxes, insurance, and mortgage payments all add up to $3,200 a month. My rent for the entire property is $3,800. So let me break this down for you. Not only do I own this property free and clear, but it pays me $500 every month to keep this property. Isn't this a no-brainer? So now I have access to $200,000 and the tenants are paying down my mortgage. Will the rate hikes affect me? Absolutely. But as long as these tenants are living in the property, they will continue to pay their rent and I'll never have to pay out of my pocket. Also, when the interest rates go up, there are more tenants in the market and rental rates go up as well. I bought this investment with a 5-year game plan, so the short-term rate hikes don't really affect me, and I encourage you to do the same. We're in a phase in real estate where inflation is at an all-time high and interest rates will continue to go up to control it. We may or may not see a crash in the coming months. So as you can see here, this is the sales count of the entire Peel region. And I'm going to break it down to just this last quarter, or essentially last 6 months, to show you exactly what the sales look like. When we started in December of 2021, we started at 200 sales, and then it declined in January. Normal January is a slower time, but people did know the rates were going up. However, as we went into February, which was the peak time, we saw 300 sales. And then since then, for the last 4 months, we've been seeing a decline. Now we're at 150 sales. So literally half the amount of sales, which is a good sign of a declining market. Moving on, looking at the average sale price, we can see that we started at 1.5 6 months ago. Then we peaked at 1.8 in January and hit that same high peak point in February at 1.8. And then we've been declining since then for 4 months straight, all the way to 1.2 million in the Peel region now. This is a very similar trend that I showed you earlier in this video, when the prices had declined in 1989 and then kept going down. The sales dropped, as you can see, and then the prices continued to decline as well, all the way to 96, which is when things just turned around and skyrocketed since, all the way up until this point. We can also see that the average days on market has increased drastically as well. We were at 17 days in January. There was a little bit of a dead period at that point. But then as we moved on to the months of February, 6 days on market. And now we're sitting at, again, 16 days. So that's almost triple the amount of time that listings are taking to sell than they were before. Last but not least, we can see that earlier this year, the average list to sale ratio was higher than 1%, than 100%, which means that properties were selling for way over asking price. In February, we hit almost 1.2, which is extremely high. However, as we come into the months now, in the recent time, properties are selling for below asking price. So there's some good deals to be had at this time. These are all signs of a declining market. With another rate hike around the corner, we will likely see prices stay around the same or decline even further. What does all of this mean? It means that if you're a buyer, have a long-term goal in mind. And if you're a seller, the listings in the last 4 months have an absorption rate of almost 4, which means out of 5 listings, only the top 2 will sell. It is crucial that you price and present your property in its best light for it to sell in this market. Does this mean that people with large real estate portfolios will have financial trouble? Not necessarily. If their strategy is to buy and hold long term, they'll still see great returns. Residential real estate and some commercial real estate as well is an essential commodity and will never go out of business. In fact, in a recession, rental rates tend to go up because it's more in demand. As we can see in this graph, yes, in 1989, prices did dip. However, whoever held on to their properties back then, 5 years later, saw their prices double. Then 5 years later, they doubled again. Then 5 years later, once again. And now 30 years later, they're up over 4 times on their properties. I always ask my buyer clients what your plans are with the property. If your plan is to sell it in a year or 2, I always encourage not to get into the property itself. If you plan on holding on to your property for 3 to 5 years, it won't matter if you see a small dip in prices after you buy your property, because in the long run, you will see growth. As long as you take a bite that you can chew, you'll be just fine. What I mean is, look at your finances right now and how much it costs you to live where you do. And if the mortgage payments on the property purchase you make is around the same as the cost of living now, it makes sense to own a property than to rent or live somewhere else. However, if you over leverage yourself, especially those people that put less than 20% down, could be in a tough spot if the prices fluctuate. I'm going to play a short clip of a video of the summer market in 1982 when the prices were stagnant. They dropped 25% from the previous year and interest rates were around 16.5%. Take a look at what I mean.
The recent federal budget was supposed to stimulate the housing industry, but in Toronto, Canada's largest real estate market, it seems to have done the opposite. Confusion over what the budget offers home buyers has brought the Toronto market almost to a standstill. Larry Rose reports.
Latest figures show house sales across Canada are down about 25% from last year. Interest rates are still high, of course, but now a new problem as well. People who would like to buy a home are confused about what the federal government is doing to help them.
One example, the government has appointed a panel of financial experts that could result in a program of mortgage rates that are 6% lower. But it's not certain the program will ever be implemented, and in any event, nothing is going to be done before September. The result? Buyers are simply waiting, especially the ones in Toronto.
Toronto realtor Daryl Kent says another budget provision was expected to help some families buy a new home, but so far it hasn't worked.
Didn't do a thing. In fact, it caused more problems. You know, they announced the $3,000 first-time buyer's grant, but there are no details on it, and generally the confusion caused by the government, the market's ground to an almost total halt.
Kent says sellers are becoming increasingly desperate. This house in the trendy Cabbagetown area has been on sale for more than a year. There are no takers, even though the price has been cut by more than $70,000.
There were plenty of for sale signs around Toronto before last month's federal budget. Now the signs are still here, and it looks like they're going to stay here a lot longer. Larry Rose, CBC News, Toronto.
After that year, the government implemented many programs to stimulate the market and increase prices once again. The major takeaway here is that prices will always fluctuate. The market is cyclical. Interest rates will either be low and prices will be high, or prices will be low and interest rates will be high. What we want to focus on here is the monthly payments, not the real estate prices going up or down. In this market, the longer you hold on to your investment, the better it will perform. The minimum time frame I recommend is at least 5 years. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you're informed every time a new video is released. What are your thoughts about how long this market will stay stagnant? Comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember, we provide results that move you.